You're listening to the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. It's time to wake up with the Morning Boys on Worldwide Sports Radio Network. And here's your host, Ryan Hickey.
Good Monday morning and happy Memorial Day as we welcome you into the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. It is the Morning Boys with Ryan Hickey right here with you on this, again, Memorial Day. We wish everyone, hopefully they had a great Memorial Day weekend. Obviously a little bit different than what we're used to this time of the year. The coronavirus definitely has curbed a lot of the fun that we normally have. But we do wish you happy Memorial Day. And also, more importantly, despite the weekend, not really feeling like Memorial Day weekend, despite really not trying to welcome summer in like we normally do. Still, we hope you had a great weekend, and for sure. And also still are remembering what is important, which is all those veterans that served in our military, that dedicated their lives, that helped fight for our freedom and guarantee our freedom. So we wish happy Memorial Day to them, all those that are living, and also we also remember those who unfortunately lost their lives and passed away in the line of battle. So again, we do wish them a happy Memorial Day, thank them for their service, and again, try not to forget the real meaning of this weekend for sure, again, despite it not feeling any sort of normal, again, with the coronavirus. But welcome in. Hopefully we're going to have a great Memorial Day America-themed show for you today. If you're watching on the stream, I have a very white and blue. I have my white sneakers on, some blue pants, a red shirt, a red USA Miracle shirt that I got up in Lake Placid. So definitely trying to do my part here, at least. Again, if you can't go to the beach, can't go to the bars, can't go to the barbecues like we normally do on these weekends, at least try to still have some sort of Memorial Day celebration for sure. And we will at least try to give you a great show on this holiday Monday, as we always try to do here. The NFL does not sleep. We'll get into a few rule changes here in just a little bit. One that could be great for the game, absolutely great for the game. One that could have some unintended consequences that, again, could unfortunately be the headline and be the focal point as we head into the 2020 year. We'll discuss those right away here. Did you watch any golf? Some more live sports were on this past weekend, as yesterday you had the Match 2.0. You had Tiger Woods and Peyton Manning taking on Tom Brady and Phil Mickelson in a golf and a skins match for charity. Raised a ton of money for COVID-19 relief, which is obviously a great cause. And it was also some great entertainment, so we'll discuss that. Lived up to every expectation I think you could possibly have. And it was nice to see, some golfers actually not as good as us, not, on our same skill level. So that was definitely refreshing. You see, we'll discuss that. Chris Sale last week talked to ESPN. Red Sox pitcher, if you're unaware, and he had some interesting comments when discussing, his respect for Alex Cora, his former manager that was there for 2 years in 2018 and 2019 before he was fired for his role with the cheating scandal when he was an assistant coach with the Astros. And Chris Sale had some interesting comments, not only defending Alex Cora, which, the guy won him a World Series. He was, he's supposed to be a player's coach from all you hear. So I can understand sort of the backing there from a former player that was his manager. But also, he mentioned comments about the Astros and their cheating, which kind of leads me to believe, does every team in Major League Baseball cheat in one way or another? We'll discuss that at 9:40. 10 Eastern, we have a loaded back of the show. We have most intriguing NFL teams, numbers 12 to 9. So we're really now getting to the top third, the 12 most intriguing teams, the 12 teams you'll be watching the most when the NFL season rolls around, hopefully on time in September. And we'll give you numbers 12 through number 9 as we're working our way to number 1, which we'll get to a week from today. 10:20, of course, 2020 or Apocalypse. If you want to be our participant in the game show, right on Facebook, right on Twitter, shoot me a text if you have my number for sure. To get in line, we are looking for participants for today's show. The number to beat, 4 out of 5. And both Sarah and Lauren crushed it, got 4 to 5. They're in first place, and Nick and Mike tied for second with 3 out of 5. So it's still open. First place, you can sit all by yourself. If you go a perfect 5 for 5, I think we have some good questions today. If you want to be, again, a participant, reach out, let me know at 10:20 Eastern. We will have you as the latest game show participant, and we'll end the show with Dennis Dodd, a great national college football reporter, writer for CBS Sports. Last week was really the most optimistic I've been since the shutdown, since coronavirus has taken a hold on America, of college football returning. So I want to get Dennis's thoughts on what a season could look like, how legitimately close to a normal season could we have. And I'm not going to lie, a little bit of that optimism that was built up last week, the confidence that I had that, okay, you know what, we're going to have a season And for the most part, that season is going to look as close to normal as possible. Maybe not start on time, maybe miss a game or two, but for the most part, college football in 2020 will seem and feel as close to normal as possible, obviously given the circumstances that we're dealing with. But the Michigan president came out Sunday morning and had some comments that kind of threw some cold water on my optimism. I can't lie. So we'll get Dennis Dodd, his take, that again at 10:40 Eastern on where he thinks the state of college football is. I mean, you have the NCAA now allowing student athletes back on campus starting June 1st. You have the SEC announcing starting June 8th they will have voluntary organized football workouts. So we're slowly starting to get back, and we're slowly starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel that maybe college football could be played. But we'll get Dennis's take on when it could be played, and he also had some interesting differences that when and if college football is played, how it's going to look different than we normally are used to viewing it up until this year. So that's interesting. We'll get Dennis's thoughts again at 10:40 Eastern to close out the show here. But I do want to talk about and start with the NFL. Again, I feel like we talked a lot about the NFL, especially since the coronavirus, again, just really put a main shutdown on all sports. That's because the NFL, being in the offseason for the most part, has been able to operate business as usual. Compared to the MLB, compared to the NBA, compared to the NHL, every other sport, obviously, that's in season has put to a halt. But the NFL continues to go business as usual, and now they are proposing 2 rule changes that will be voted upon by the owners this week that could be implemented in this 2020 season. I think, like I said, one would be a great rule change that I think will bring a lot of excitement to the game. One I think could bring some more controversy. So start with the great. The 2 rules, and the first one I think that could be great, is a change to the onside kick. So instead of having an onside kick where, teams are desperate to try to get the ball back, they kick it 10 yards, it's been very futile at best. It's really trying to hit the lottery to try to recover an onside kick nowadays. But now instead of having the onside kick, the NFL is proposing you take that out. Right? So no more onside kicks allowed. And instead, if you wanted to try to have a way to get the ball back instead of just kicking off, you can instead have a 4th down and 15 play from your own 25-yard line. Right? So let's say the onside kick is out. Now all of a sudden you need the ball back. You're down by 4 with a minute left, and you need to try to get the ball back quick. You can opt for getting the ball, 1 offensive play from your own 25-yard line. Again, you have to get 15 yards to get the first down. If you get the first down, you keep the ball, and obviously the drive goes from there. If you don't get it, the defense, or I should say the other team, will get the ball wherever the play is down. Right? So if you start on your own 25-yard line, the quarterback is sacked at the 20-yard line. The other team takes the ball over at your own 20-yard line. Until you get 10 yards, you come up short, you get to the 35, boom, the other team takes over at the 35-yard line. So teams can do that twice a game in any quarter at any time. So you could be up 45-0, you want to send a message in the third quarter, boom, you can opt to do it. If you're down by 30 in the fourth quarter, you can opt to do it. So the only limit is you can do it twice a game, but you can do it at any quarter. You don't have to be trailing, you could be leading, you could be tied. Any point in the game, you just got to do it twice. You can do it. And I think, to me, this rule would be great for the NFL. Absolutely great. Because you know why? The onside kick is essentially dead. It is essentially useless. It is, again, a futile act that you have a better chance of winning the lottery than recovering an onside kick. And the biggest difference, and really what killed the onside kick, are the new kickoff rules that were implemented after the 2017 season. So really, the last 2 years, teams on the kickoff weren't allowed to run up. Basically, you couldn't start running until the ball was kicked. Right? Up until that point, up until 2017, those players that are on the kickoff team can basically run up to where the ball is really whenever. They can follow the kicker. The kicker starts to jog up. Those team can jog up. So by the time the ball is kicked, you have a running start. You can get down there as fast as possible. Well, the NFL wanted to promote safety, wanted to take some of the collisions out of the game, so they enforced that now those on the kickoff team, you can't start running until the ball is kicked. And with that, that's kind of hurt the onside kick, because now if you don't get a running start, don't have any momentum going for the ball, which you're going to only need to go 10 yards, so you're working with a short space here. If you have to start basically flat-footed, it's so hard to recover these onside kicks, and the stats back that up. So since the kickoff rules were changed 2 years ago, the onside kick recovery rate is just 10.5%. That's it. Now, if you think, 4th and 15, that's just as hard to convert. It's I'm sure the percentages can't be that high. Credit to Andrew Siciliano of NFL Network. If you watch, if you're used to the Red Zone on DirecTV, he is your man. So teams have converted 4th and 15 24.1% of the time. So more than double. You have a better chance of converting a 4th and 15 than recovering an onside kick. And I'll take this all day. I love this because you know why? You know what it does all of a sudden? It opens the door. It makes a possibility of a comeback more attainable. It makes the end of games more exciting. Now, again, instead of watching a kick that, could take a lucky bounce, maybe you get lucky one out of every 30 times, it feels like, of recovering an onside kick. All of a sudden now, if you have a great offense, 4th and 15 doesn't seem that bad. If you're the Chiefs, you have Patrick Mahomes, and you're down by 7, and you have a chance, one play to get 15 yards, I'm feeling pretty damn good about it. So all of a sudden now, the comebacks are more likely, the games at the end of games get more exciting, and it adds also some strategy as well. I mean, you can use this at any time. If you feel the momentum shifting, let's say in the third quarter, early in the fourth quarter, and you as a team want to take control with your offense, you can go for it. You can play keep away. And the best part is there is a significant punishment if you don't get it. You give the other team great field position if you don't get it. So sure, 4th and 15, the conversion rate is doubled at an onside kick, so maybe it feels like it cheapens the comeback or it's easier to come back, but the risk is also greater. Because now think about it. Kickoffs are at the 35-yard line. If you kick off 10 yards and you don't get it, the other team is getting it at the closest to 45. All of a sudden now you don't get it. You're on your own 25-yard line, 30, 35-yard line. These teams are getting the ball a lot closer to your end zone. So at least to me, it takes a boring aspect out of the game, a hopeless, almost, pursuit out of the game, and it adds excitement. It makes the game more exciting now. It makes it a must-watch at the end of games. See, you know what? This team is, if they have the offense clicking now in the second half, all of a sudden, 4th and 15 doesn't seem that impossible. So to me, I love the NFL recognizing boring parts of the game, taking them out, and now allowing for, again, more comebacks to happen and allow the games to become more exciting and closer down the stretch, which gets more eyeballs on those games. And I'll give the NFL credit here, too. I think part of it is safety. Anyway, they're trying their hardest and their best to take the kickoff out of the game, right? They don't want collisions. You see kickoff, the collision rates are the highest, the injury rates are the highest. They are trying to eliminate that as much as possible. And part of that is taking away the onside kick. I mean, you have guys 10 yards apart running basically as fast as they can at each other and hitting each other. Take that out of the game, all of a sudden now, an offensive play at 4th and 15 doesn't seem that dangerous compared to what an onside kick is. So probably the motivation there is safety first. But with that also benefits us, the viewer, because now games are more exciting and teams have a better chance of coming back, which again makes games closer and must watch to the end. And here's where I'll give the NFL credit as well. Because for the most part, when you are as successful as the NFL is, right, when you're in such a royal space where they are so far ahead of every other sports league, really, and in terms of the American culture, basically the most important part of that culture, right? You see every football game is always the highest ranked every single year on network television. Above the Oscars, above, the Golden Globes, above really any TV show that's on cable TV, the NFL is always at the top. And the Super Bowl, by far, is always at the top. So football is a part of our culture. When I feel like you're that successful, it's easy to kind of look at what other leagues are doing, what other even football leagues are doing, and kind of scoff at it and say, we're the NFL, we're the best. Nothing we can't do, can't touch, can't turn to gold. And I think it's easy to get complacent and roll your eyes when different leagues are trying different ways to kind of, get some fan interest. And to be fair, the NFL wasn't the first league to think of this idea of basically getting rid of the onside kick. The AAF, right, the spring football league that started last year that folded, 3 games into the season? Credit to them because they were the ones who came up with this idea. They were the ones that gave teams the option of, instead of an onside kick, you could basically have one offensive play to go for it. So I give the NFL credit where they saw the AAF do it, a lesser spring league that, again, didn't make it a full season. Didn't even make it the first season, went bankrupt. So a ton of problems, ton of issues. But they saw an idea that they liked. They saw an idea that, this could actually work well in our game. And they adopt, and they're going to adopt it, and hopefully it's voted into the game. And we'll see, again, the owners will vote this week to see if it actually will be implemented for 2020. But I like seeing the NFL embracing ideas that could work for them. Again, it's easy to get complacent, easy to kind of, roll your eyes at other leagues trying to get gimmicky or trying to have ideas to try to drum up some interest, drum up some excitement. And credit the NFL for seeing a good idea and trying to execute it and take it for their own. So I respect the NFL for adapting to what we want and making the games more exciting. So I think that rule is great for the NFL. I'm praying that it passes. I think only the games will get more exciting and adds more strategy now at the end of the games. I think is important and again will be exciting as well for us, the fans. The rule that I'm worried about here that has some good intentions, but as we saw other rules have good intentions turn out to fail miserably, is the possible addition of a sky judge, which is basically an eighth official that would be in the booth upstairs kind of reviewing plays as go on. So if a call is missed, they can buzz down and say, hey, a holding on number 78 was missed, throw the flag. Or if a call was made on the field and they say, you know what, that didn't really happen, there's no pass interference there. Or actually he got, if he didn't get the face mask, he got the shoulder, and pick up the flag. So that's the goal of the sky judge, and that's going to also be voted upon to add an extra official to the crews to, again, help kind of clean up mistakes and help find missed calls. Because as we know, right, last year NFL officials were criticized. They have one of the hardest jobs in sports because guess what? The players are getting faster. The game is faster. And the TV angles and replay is so pristine and so fine that us sitting on our couch, 3 seconds after a play is over, we can see if that was a penalty or not. We can see if he was inbounds or out of bounds. And again, within seconds, we know whether the referees made the right call or missed it. And unfortunately, again, when the game is moving that fast, when you're working with humans and there's only 7 on the field and there's so much responsibility that they have every single play, their job is very hard. I don't think we give referees enough respect for how truly hard their job is. And now, again, especially with replay, it has become that much harder and the scrutiny has become that much more intense. So I think on the surface, this is an area and this is a proposal that, sure, get an extra official on the field. It could help the referees get the right call quickly. And again, it could really clean up some mistakes so that way we're complaining less about the calls or the missed calls on the field, and we're more focused on the actual players playing the game, which I think that the NFL actually has a real problem with. Right now, we are too concerned and too preoccupied with what the officials are calling and not calling, and our focus is diverted away from the actual action on the field. Right? First thing we do, I know I do it, and I think this is kind of a reaction now that we all have. First time a deep ball is thrown, the receiver and the DB are fighting, incomplete. First thing we look for, flag. The first thing the receiver does when he comes up, if he hits the ground, look for a flag. It's kind of our reaction now. Every big play, is there a flag? Is there a flag? Is there a flag on the field? That's always kind of, we always have to wait an extra second or two to see if that yellow graphic pops up on the scorebook. Flag, big play, big run. Oh, he's going to get called back. Is there a flag? So I think, we've kind of trained and conditioned ourselves to always kind of get ready for a flag. And I personally think there's been too many flags and the referees have gotten too much involved with the play. So on the surface, in theory, a sky judge should help clear that up to where maybe he can, reverse some calls that are made on the field and say, hey, it wasn't that egregious, pick it up. Or vice versa, help the referees correct missed calls. But I was reading Peter King's Monday Morning Football, or Football Morning in America, his column this morning, and he was talking about this, and he was talking to Troy Vincent, who's very high up in the NFL ranks and is very involved with these rules, and they likened the sky judge to possibly having unintended consequences like the pass interference rule had this time last year. Remember, 2 years ago, 2018 season, you had the NFC title game between the Rams and the Saints. Obviously, the biggest thing coming out of that game was the missed pass interference call. And the Cal Roby-Coleman should have been called. Saints got a first down. They could bleed down the clock, kick a field goal, and they win the game. Said the call is missed. Clock stops, 4th down. Saints kick a field goal. The Rams get the ball back. They kick a field goal, obviously go to overtime, and the Rams win and go to the Super Bowl. And after that offseason, everyone's freaking out. How can you let that missed call happen? How can referees not be held accountable? How is there not a system in place to where if an egregious call is missed, right? If a call is that blatant and the referees don't get it, how can we make sure that doesn't happen again? And the NFL's way to address that was add a pass interference rule. So guess what? Coaches can challenge now pass interference. If it looks dicey, if a play like that happens again, you can have a coach throw the challenge flag. They can review it. And you hope at least that all of those egregious, obvious pass interference calls that are missed, or vice versa, maybe that, a ticky-tack call is fouled and it really wasn't pass interference, but it was called pass interference on the field. Those plays to be cleaned up and the right call at the end could be made. But guess what? That rule was such a disaster. All it did was add more uncertainty, and it made it harder to watch games, and we knew less, right? It was the same thing with the catch rule. We didn't know what a catch was for a while because now all of a sudden there was no consistency. There's no guidelines for what constituted a catch, what didn't constitute a catch. You have players catch the ball out of bounds, the ball goes out of their hand, it's a catch. Players in the end zone catch the ball, feels like they're walking around for 10 minutes, they drop the ball, incomplete. No one knew. And the pass interference rule was the same thing. You're challenging a judgment call. One referee could think it's a pass interference call. One referee could think it's not a pass interference call. So now you're going to have one referee make the call, then another referee go to the booth, discuss it, judge his intent and judge his judgment, and then make a ruling on it. It was a disaster. It was so bad. Think about this. It was a trial run last year. For 2019, it was put in for 1 year. They said, we'll see how it goes, and then we'll vote it to be permanent or not this year. That rule was such a disaster. It was such a failure. It's not even being voted upon. Think about that. It was supposed to be voted upon this year, this week, actually, to see if it could be permanently implemented. It was so bad. Everyone was on the same page with how brutal it was. It's not even going to a vote. It's just known we're not doing that again. One and done. It was a disaster. I'm worried that the Sky Judge could kind of have that same unintended consequence. We're watching a game, a big play happens, there was a borderline holding call that the referees didn't see on the back end of the play that the Sky Judge now sees, and he, buzzes down to the referee and has him throw the flag. That's not what we want. We need the Sky Judge to only be there to clean up egregious missed calls. That's the goal. Now, my worry is you really can't write a rule that outlines his duties, right? You can't say, hey, listen, your job is to just clean up the most egregious missed calls. Because guess what? My term of egregious, your definition of egregious, the other guy's definition of egregious, it's all different. An obvious call to me may not seem obvious to you. It may not be egregious to you that, okay, it happened. Is it egregious where you have to buzz down and change it? To me, I could say yes. You could say no. We're all going to be divisive again, and we're going to be in the same place in 2021. On May 25th, 2021, we're going to be in the same spot discussing this rule that we were this time last year discussing the pass interference rule. So I think Peter King's article and talking to Troy Vincent helped shed light because I was on board with this initially. I think, this is a good idea. Again, you have an extra set of eyes there just to clean up the game and make sure that egregious calls aren't missed. And he brought up the great point. Unintended consequences, just like the pass interference rule last year, are very viable and possibly could happen again with this Sky Judge compared to what we had the pass interference rule last year. So I'm very skeptical and very nervous, and I don't think the Sky Judge would be a good idea because you have to implement it in a way that won't make the game more confusing to watch, I'll say, and add more controversy. You need to add more clarity. NFL cannot add more controversy when it comes to officiating. I'm not sure that there's a way so far in 2020 to implement an extra official without making it more controversial, without adding more doubt on what's going on the field. So I think the Sky Judge should wait off for a year, really having a way where you can prevent those unintended consequences. And again, make sure that only the play on the field is what we're focusing on instead of the referees. Pass on the Sky Judge, and I pray to God they put the onside kick rule. Take the onside kick out, 4th and 15 from your own 25. I think that would be great for the game and make it more exciting for sure. So I'd love to get your thoughts. Either proposal. Do you think the Sky Judge would be a good idea? It would be an awful idea? Are you in favor of a 4th and 15 instead of taking the onside kick out, or instead of having the onside kick, take it out and replace it with a 4th and 15 play from your team's own 25-yard line? I think it would be great for the NFL, add more excitement, be a total win from my perspective for the game. So let's get your thoughts either on Facebook, Worldwide Sports Radio Network, on Twitter, WWSRN_radio, WWSRN_radio. Read your thoughts on potential rule changes in the NFL that are going to be voted upon this week. And when we come back, did you watch any golf yesterday? We had some more live sports. The match, Peyton Manning, Tiger Woods versus Tom Brady, Phil Mickelson. We'll discuss why it was a win all around for golf, for these players. When the Morning Boys, Ryan Hickey, return right here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
You're listening to the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Welcome back into the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. It is the Morning Boys with Ryan Hickey right here on this Memorial Day Monday. We hope everyone had a great Memorial Day weekend, celebrated as safely as you possibly can, and while still having some fun. Obviously, it's a little bit different this year than most, so obviously we hope you're still making the most of it, and we do, again, appreciate all those who are currently in the service and serving or did sacrifice their lives and help preserve our freedom. So we thank those. Make sure to thank any veteran that you know and thank them for their service today. So that's really what this weekend and especially this day is all about. But also with Memorial Day, we'll stick with the theme. Let's tweet it out. Let's get your thoughts as well. What is your favorite Memorial Day activity? Obviously, again, this year we really can't celebrate or kind of pull off those activities. For me, it's definitely going to the beach. That is the ultimate goal each and every Memorial Day, the unofficial start of summer. And my only goal, my only activity that I look to accomplish is getting to the beach one of the 3 days. And at least, again, starting the summer season off right. So at least for me, that is the activity that I always look forward to and always look to achieve. Obviously this year, one, because of weather, and two, obviously because of the circumstances that we're in, that is not able to happen. We're still trying to make the most of it for sure. But I'd love to get your thoughts throughout the show. Again, whether it's on Facebook, you comment for Worldwide Sports Radio Network, Twitter, WWSRN_radio, or just tweet it out on my personal Twitter handle, Ryan_Hickey, the number 3, your favorite Memorial Day activity that you usually love to do. Usually always try to have happen every year, whether it's a barbecue, whether you're play golf, whether going on a hike, doing something outside, whatever your goal is and whatever you always look forward to doing on Memorial Day. I'd love to get your thoughts, again, as we take those throughout the show. So speaking of golf, right, if that's your activity, if you're a big golfer, and Memorial Day weekend is always one of those weekends that you always like to get out on the links, play a few times. Obviously, again, it's tougher to do, but there was some live golf to watch this weekend, as yesterday he had the match 2.0, Tiger Woods, Peyton Manning going against Phil Mickelson and Tom Brady. To me, it lived up to all expectations. And first and foremost, the goal was to raise money for COVID-19 relief, raise $20 million. So credit to TNT, credit to those 4 athletes, credit to everyone who donated. They had plenty of cameos throughout the show. You had Brooks Koepka tweeting out that he was going to donate some money. You had Russell Wilson come on live and do a closest to the pin donation as well. So it was great to see all these athletes and all these players of influence, of significant influence, raising money, again, for COVID-19 relief, $20 million. So that's first and foremost a great cause that happened there for sure, and a lot of great money hoping to, again, to help the fight of coronavirus. So we do appreciate that, and that is obviously a big accomplishment. But also, at least to me, watching the match yesterday, that was the most realistic watching golf I've ever felt. And that's why it felt so good to watch. It was so relatable. Because you had these 4 guys, right? And we're so used to, if you're a golf fan, or like me, I'm a casual golf fan. I watch the majors. I watch the playoff. But for the most part, I don't really get into golf until the Masters roll around in April. And then all the majors I'll watch throughout the summer. But other than that, I'm not going to watch a lot of these smaller tournaments. Or if I do, it won't be till Saturday or Sunday. So I'm definitely a casual golf fan for sure. But watching yesterday was definitely the most realistic and the most relatable watching golf I've ever felt. Because so many times these players, and it's not a knock, it's just when you watch professional sports, right? Whether it's baseball, basketball, football, these athletes are the best of the best, right? They are able to accomplish things and do things athletically that we couldn't even dream of doing in our lives. And they do it and make it look easy. And golfers are the same thing, right? They hit 330-yard drives. They hit these insane shots, these insane, irons that they hit it so far that we can never, we'll hit a driver the same length that these guys hit like an 8-iron. Just an easy swing for them. So it's never relatable, and it's always easy to see, you kind of get lulled in when you're seeing these guys day after day, weekend after weekend, year after year, just constantly hitting these great shots every time. And I'll be honest, going to the match, I kind of expected that because, all right, you have Tiger Woods and you have Phil Mickelson, right? 2 pros, 2 all-time greats. And obviously you have Peyton Manning and Tom Brady, 2 football players, now golfers, but I don't know why. Maybe it's just because I'm so used to just seeing golfers just play so well. But watching Tom Brady and watching Peyton Manning on the first hole, on the first tee shot, both missed the fairway. Tom Brady, I believe, hooked his, and Peyton put his in the woods, or vice versa. Either way, both tee shots were awful. Like, if me and you were on the course, that's what it felt like watching. And it was just so refreshing to see, because it's like, wow. Not everyone is an all-time great golfer. Not everyone can put in the fairway with ease. Not everyone can tear up the course, go for birdies, go for eagles, and basically have a par be like, that was a decent hole. Or for me and you, par is a great hole. I played last Thursday for the first time and it felt like forever. I had one opportunity at 9 holes. I had 1 birdie putt. It was the greatest feeling ever. I missed it. I 3-putted. I got a bogey. But I can't lie. That was the best hole of the day. To even have a chance to get on the green, to even putt for a chance to even get par. I was like, this is a great day. Hit it straight, hit 2 shots straight in a row. I'm like, you know what? I'm hanging them up. This is golf. I'm done. I accomplished everything I wanted to accomplish. And again, to watch these guys struggle, at least Brady and Peyton Manning, at least to me, I've always liked Peyton Manning. Well, I mean, I'm a huge Colts fan. Peyton Manning's my favorite athlete of all time. So that wasn't easy to do. But I'll be honest, Tom Brady, to me, became a lot more likable yesterday. It was so humanizing to see him struggle, right? To see him spraying tee shots left and right, to see him hitting out of the sand, hitting out of the bunker, hitting out of the woods. It was refreshing and it was humanizing to see a great athlete, the greatest football player of all time, struggle at something. We never see him struggle ever. The guy's 43 years old, defies age, and he's still playing at a high level and enough to where the Buccaneers gave him a massive contract. And now you look at the betting odds, you look at predictions, the Buccaneers are a Super Bowl contender just because Tom Brady went there. So this guy accomplishes and succeeds at everything he does. Excuse me. I'm getting choked up over Tom Brady becoming likable. But it was great to see him struggling, missing putts, having Phil kind of encourage him. He was having a good time with the ribbing. And everyone, especially the first felt like 6 or 7 holes, everyone was giving Tom Brady a hard time on social media, on Twitter. Charles Barkley in his ear talking trash to Brady. He rolled with it. It was great to see. It was awesome to see someone that's so elite, that's so good in one sport, so dominant in one sport, and so successful, actually struggle for once. So I love the trash talk. Peyton Manning was giving it to him. He was giving it right back. I loved everything about it. And again, watching the players struggle, to me at least, was made it so relatable. Me, Peyton Manning, Tom Brady all have something in common. We all can't get off the tee. We all have issues keeping it in the fairway. It was awesome to see. Again, it makes it more relatable. And for me, it made Tom Brady more likable because he's human. Right? He looks like a robot in certain circumstances. He has this TB12 method. He doesn't eat strawberries. He always stretches, drinks, feels like 10 gallons of water a day. He operates like he is superhuman. And it's nice to see him again. On the field, on the football field, he looks superhuman. But on the golf course, he looks like me and you. He looks like an average Joe. So I thought that was really cool. Gave Tom Brady, a humanization of so. And at least to me, it made Tom Brady more likable. I also loved players who were mic'd up. There was some great access, great insight. You had Phil Mickelson coaching Tom Brady, gave some great tips, what to look for, how to read the greens, how to putt it. I thought that was some great insight. And I thought, at least to me personally as a fan, I thought it was awesome kind of hear a professional player go through the process. Right? So many times we see these guys on TV, they're talking to themselves or talking to the caddy. We can't really hear it. So you don't really know what's going through their mind when they're going on an approach shot or they hit a shot that doesn't look great, let's say, but they actually accomplished what they wanted to because they wanted to get in a certain spot because they knew that that's what's going to make their third shot easier. All right, somebody hit it to the left. Oh, that wasn't a great shot. The pin's all the way on the right. They hit it to the left. But they know they hit on the left on purpose because they realize it's going to be an easier way to get on the green than me and you maybe would think. So hearing the process of how these players kind of think and approach each hole I thought was awesome. Other sports leagues should take note. Again, we're discussing if sports comes back, what it's going to be like without fans. We discussed on Thursday. Or no, I'm sorry. We discussed on Monday. No, today's Monday. Holy cow. Losing track of the days. We discussed on Thursday what it was like. Fox and Joe Buck discussed how they're going to put crowd noise underneath the broadcast of NFL games to kind of make up for the lack of no fans in the stands, or if there are fans, very little fans in the stands. And I think networks and sports leagues should take notice of how cool it is to hear players mic'd up, hear them talking and going through the process, and just hearing them discuss, going into each shot. Obviously, you can't have them mic'd up like they were because that acts, it's just a competitive disadvantage. Talk about, your secrets and your plays if you're in the NBA or the NFL. But I think you can definitely have more mics around the field when there's no fans and definitely, replay more of conversations that go on. And I think it would be a great insight for fans. Take fans behind the curtain, which I think would be a bonus for sure. And again, make the players more relatable. So I think that's something that the networks should look into. And I thought no crowd noise or fans worked. Again, it helped that, they were mic'd up. It helped that they had interviews throughout the match. So again, that kind of, fills some dead air per se. That you really can't do realistically during a real game that counts in any other sports league. But I thought it was great, way to have these athletes connect more to the fans. And if sports leagues, the NBA, the NHL, MLB, could somehow recreate this when they resume, and assuming that they resume without fans, I think that would be an overall win for us, the viewer. So I'd love to get your thoughts. Did you watch the match? What were your thoughts on it? You like the presentation, you like the trash talk. It was great to see athletes struggle. I know for me that was the biggest takeaway. Tom Brady became more likable because he was so bad at golf. He had a few good shots, which I saw a tweet that really summed it up best. Tom Brady's golf game is why I keep going out there. You struggle. Then if he was on 7, he hold it in from about 100, 120, 150 yards out, just holds it right in. Those are the shots that keep you coming back. And it's nice to see Tom Brady mimic what me and you would look like on the golf course on any other weekend. So I thought it was great overall. Win-win. Great cause, raised a lot of money, and also, again, pulled the curtain back and gave some great insight to these players. So let's get your thoughts on the match if you watched it, if you enjoyed it. And when we come back, also we'll discuss Chris Sale talked to ESPN last week, gave some interesting comments, and made me ask the question, is every team in Major League Baseball cheating in some form? We'll discuss that when the Morning Boys Ryan Hickey return right here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. It's time to wake up with the Morning Boys on Worldwide Sports Radio Network. And here's your host, Ryan Hickey.
We hope you're having a great Memorial Day and Monday right here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. It is the Morning Boys with you here. To appreciate tuning in and listening on this holiday Monday. Hopefully everyone had a fun, as much as you possibly can have fun on this holiday weekend. Again, it's tough. Hopefully, we're slowly inching there, at least in New York. Where I am, you can see slowly the gates are starting to open. We're starting to phase in and starting to allow some businesses to open and start to at least see some light at the end of the tunnel, per se, of getting back to some sort of normality this summer. And fingers crossed that, sure, Memorial Day wasn't great, but hopefully by July 4th, we can be celebrating America's birthday as close to a normal fashion as possible, obviously, while still respecting and observing some social distancing guidelines. It's definitely different. It's not ideal for sure. At least for me, I know the weather not being great kind of makes it a little easier to deal with. If it was 75 and sunny every day, sure, not being able to go to the beach, not having, be able to have a big barbecue or go with friends or hit the bars would obviously hurt a little bit more. So just Mother Nature is not totally tempting us here with some great knockdown weather that, otherwise we would be killing to be on the golf course or be at the beach or, again, just celebrating in some sort of way. But, again, hopefully you are creative, having some good times, and we are taking your favorite Memorial Day activities. Mine is going to the beach for sure. Whatever yours is, going to play golf, barbecue, going outside, maybe just reading, relaxing, whatever it is. Let me know either on Facebook, Worldwide Sports Radio Network, Twitter, WWSR_radio. Shoot me a text if you want. That works as well. We'll read those thoughts. If you want to participate, 2020 or Apocalypse, about half hour or so from now, 10:20 Eastern. If you want to be a participant and try to get the money, 5 questions. This is something that happened in 2020, something that's made up. We'll get your thoughts, and if you want to be a participant, let us know, and we'll get you on the show for sure. So I want to get into to Chris Sale here, because he spoke with Marley Rivera of ESPN last week. Mostly discussed his rehab, but he also had some interesting comments about Alex Cora, his former manager, and the Astros cheating. And to me, these comments shine a light on why every team, and I believe this even when the Astros story first came out, every team in Major League Baseball cheats in some form or another. Now, not as egregiously as the Astros did, or maybe even the Red Sox did. But I think one way or another, teams are always trying to get an edge over each other. And because cheating really has been rampant in the sport since it really began, right? Baseball is really the one sport where it kind of looked the other way for a while on what cheating, teams cheating and, some teams or players getting a competitive advantage. Baseball has always been the one sport that's kind of looked the other way, kind of, turned a blind eye, let's say, to it. And at least, again, Chris Sale, to me, his comments highlight why every team in Major League Baseball cheats in one way or another. It just, what's the severity, what level they do it. Some cheat more than others. But I'll read you some of the thoughts here and why I think this way. So, Chris Sale, when talking about Alex Cora, he was fired. This is what Chris Sale had to say. Quote, "I lost zero respect for AC being Alex Cora. And look what I did in 2017 in the playoffs. In the ALDS, you have to win 3 games, which means you can only lose 2. I lost 2 of those 3 games to the Astros that were cheating, right? The very next year, AC comes over and we won the World Series, and I learned who he is," end quote. So think about this. You have a guy back in 2017, right in the heart of when the Astros were cheating, right? This is when the scheme was first developed. They have that great regular season. They go to the World Series to win the World Series. You have Chris Sale in the playoffs when, on the record, the Astros were known to be cheating. Looking at the catcher signs, knowing what pitch is coming. You have Chris Sale, who lost 2 of the 3 games, one of the best pitchers in baseball, coming out and say, yeah, what am I supposed to do, I lost to a team. They were cheating. I lost 2 games. That's basically on me. Alex Cora comes over, win the World Series next year. It's all good. Who is content? Who is okay with losing 2 games because the other team was cheating? Well, am I missing something here? Or is it because Alex Cora came over the next year, the guy who helped devise and carry out the cheating scheme in Houston, comes over to Boston next year. They win the World Series. They had a record-setting pace and a great year. Great regular season and run through the playoffs. Is it because now he came over, brought some of those cheating ways, so now it's like, okay, the Astros cheated in 2017, but guess what? We cheated in some for another 2 in 2018. How mad can I be? Because guess what? We're all doing it. So that's the first comment that I say, you know what? Okay, here's a guy that saw a team cheating, realized his team is also skirting the rules, and so I'm not going to be a hypocrite. I'm not going to call someone out because guess what? The last thing I need is another investigation, which MLB, they found some sort of cheating to the level that do I believe that it was only basically a rogue assistant that was writing down the signs and decoding the signs in the game and not telling anyone? I don't believe that. That's what Rob Manfred and Major League Baseball, after their investigation concluded, that's what they found. And I think if that was the case, is Alex Cora maybe still in a job? We'll see. But I think at least those first comments, basically acknowledging, I lost 2 of the games, the Astros were cheating, but guess what? Alex Cora came over the next year and we won the World Series. I learned who he is. Meaning, I learned the ways that the Astros skirted the rules and cheated. We're going to do the same thing in Boston next year. And that's what happened. They won the World Series. So also, that didn't stop. I mean, that's not the only quote. He went on. Second quote, maybe I'm different, but I believe everyone blew this thing out of proportion. Talking about the Astros cheating. Let me be clear. I believe what the Astros did was wrong. That is first and foremost, but it doesn't matter. What am I going to do? I can't go back in the past. There's no point in sitting around complaining about losing. This is what I don't get, Chris. You're not complaining about losing. If you complain, or if you gripe publicly about the Astros maybe cheating you out of a World Series or cheating you out of at least, cheating you personally out of some extra money or some extra success, because you, again, were the guy who lost 2 games to a team that knew your signs and knew what was coming. Think about that. This is a guy that was directly affected. He's not an outfielder that, didn't really have an effect on him because it's not like he's not a pitcher, so they don't know what signs are coming. This is a guy who's on the mound who the cheating is directly affecting. And he's saying, there's no point in complaining. This thing's all blown out of proportion. The Astros knowing every pitch that's coming and relaying it in real time, who cares? Everyone's making a bigger deal about it than it really is. Chris, what are you talking about, man? What are you talking about? Knowing what pitch is coming in baseball basically takes out 90% of how hard the game is. Do you know why hitting a baseball is the hardest thing to do in sports? It's because you have less than a second to recognize what pitch is coming, where it's going to be, and if you should swing at it and make great contact, hitting a round ball with a round bat, hitting it where 9 other guys aren't standing. It's so hard because guess what? You fail 3 times out of 10, you're going to the Hall of Fame. There's no other league, no other sport, no other accomplishment. You can fail 70% of the time and be considered one of the greatest of all time. Quarterbacks aren't completing 3 out of 10 passes and going to the Hall of Fame. You don't have Kobe Bryant or Michael Jordan hitting 3 out of every 10 shots and having them being regarded as one of the best ever. And there's a reason why baseball is so hard. So in doing that, when you take out, the hardest part is identifying the pitch, and listen, a fastball's coming, so you know what to look for. You just got to see if it's in the strike zone or not, and you're going to swing. That takes out the guessing game. That takes out all of the unknown, essentially, when you're a batter. It's like if you told the defense what play is coming offensively or vice versa. If the defense knew every single offensive play call or the offense knew every single defense of coverage that the other team was in, that takes out the guessing game. That takes out the hardest part of the game. So if you told Patrick Mahomes or whatever team you were a fan of, this defense is going to be blitzing from the right side, and they knew that before the play was even snapped, guess what? They can easily devise a play, change the play to make sure that that's successful and take advantage of it. So yeah, it is a big deal. It's a huge deal. And you are the guy directly affected. You are the guy that they are cheating off of. You are the guy that they are telling, hey, listen, a fastball is coming. And guess what? You lost 2 games because of it. What do you mean you're blowing it out of proportion? And then finally, Chris Sale ended with this, quote, honestly, I learned a lot from 2017, which was my first experience in the postseason. I fell as flat on my face as anyone's ever done in their first career postseason appearance. The what-if game doesn't appeal to me. When I see Jose Altuve or Carlos Correa or George Springer, I will still say hello to them. It's not like I'm not going to talk to those guys ever again. That World Series may be tainted a little bit, but there's nothing I'll ever do to change it, end quote. I mean, this last thing kind of really what kind of radiates why I think everyone is cheating. Because guess what? If you went to a job interview, right? Let's just say you're interviewing for a job. It's you or the other guy. Just like in baseball, there's always one winner, right? The batter or the pitcher. You're in a job interview. It's between you and someone else. You knew that the other person, you find out later, that the other person got the job. And in part, the reason why they killed the interview so much is because they cheated in some way. Let's say they illegally obtained documents, or maybe even they went back and changed their resume a little bit in order to make it seem more impressive than yours when it really isn't that impressive. So now they get a job because they cheat. Let's say they lie about the resume, no one catches it. They get the job because of it, because of that job experience that they never had. Then you don't get the job. So now you're out of a job. This other person gets the job, so they win the championship in sports theoretically, and then you later find out, well, listen, they got the job because they padded their resume. They lied on their resume. They made it seem better than it really is. Would you just be okay with it? Would you be sitting back if this is your dream job 2 years from now saying, yeah, you know what? My dream job, I really wanted this job. I worked my entire life, worked my entire working career to get to this point. The guy got the job because he lied on his resume. He didn't deserve the job. I was more qualified. I was a better interview. But guess what? He lied. He cheated. He got the job. What am I going to do? Well, I'm not going to complain. It's not that big of a deal. When I still see him, if we go to the same gym or we go to the same supermarket, I'm still going to say hi to him. That's a great guy. I'm not going to be that mad. What are you talking about? Everyone would be furious. I would lose my mind if I found out that someone got the job over me because they cheated or they lied on their resume. Now I'm out of the dream job, and I still see this guy walking around. I'm still going to be friends with him. I'm still going to be nice to him. You wouldn't feel this way unless you yourself cheated your own resume, unless you yourself lied on your own resume, padded your stats per se, and maybe exaggerated the truth to where, hey, listen, I should be mad at this guy. He cheated maybe more than I did. But at the end of the day, guess what? I still cheated. I can't call him out because the last thing I want to do is people be knocking on my door. And all of a sudden now, maybe I'm in more trouble than if I just kept my mouth shut, accepted the fact that they cheated more than I did. They got it. They got this one. We'll let them have it, and I'm just going to move on. That's, to me, listen to these comments. Basically saying, this is blown out of proportion. I'm going to see those guys, Jose Altuve, Carlos Correa, George Springer, the guys who benefited the most, the guys who directly affected me negatively as I lost 2 games in that 2017 ALDS. I'm still going to say hi to them. They're still cool. We're still friends. It's all good. You wouldn't say that unless you were cheating yourself. Whether it was that year, whether it was 2018 with Alex Cora, whether it's 2019 above, whether it's every single year. I truly believe with the technology that's available in this day and age, with the access MLB allows these teams to have with technology. Think about it. MLB allowed, up until this point, direct access to cameras in real time, where you can have someone basically watching every single camera angle in real time and decode what's going on, and basically have no checks and balances to stop it up until this point. So yeah, I totally think teams are cheating in Major League Baseball in one way or another. Again, to the extent, to the level is all different. I think no one got as bad as egregious as the Astros. But with that said, it's still bad. It's still cheating. So I think to me, like listening and reading to Chris Sale's comments about basically how this is being overblown, not that big of a deal, we should just move past it. He's not that mad. He already got past it. To me, that tells me the Red Sox were just as guilty as the Astros. You're not going to call someone out if you don't want them coming to your door investigating you. Baseball is a sport that's always been filled with cheating. Sign stealing goes back as far as possible. It's not just now the rise of technology and allowing cameras, 10 feet from the dugout that's changed, sign stealing. You have stories about it in the 60s and the 70s. You had coaches in light poles, turning the light on for the fastball, turn the light off if it was an off-speed pitch. Sign stealing goes back as far as possible. You have steroids. I mean, how long did Major League Baseball look the other way? Is Mark McGwire, Barry Bonds, Sammy Sosa, they're all cheating. You have pitchers using pine tar. You have nail files, that pitchers are using to scuff the ball up. There's always been players and teams that always try to skirt the rules, always trying to bend the rules and try to get a competitive advantage illegally. This has been in the game of baseball since it started. Baseball doesn't patrol it as much as other leagues, which is why it's so rampant and why it happens much more than any other league allows it to. So, yeah, I think just this confirms when you hear Chris Sale talking that this confirms every single team in baseball cheats in one way or another. It's all about the severity. It's all about the level of which they cheat. And that's why I think at least you hear a guy who was directly affected negatively. come out and basically say, it's not that big of a deal. We're blowing this out of proportion. We just calm down, give the Astros a break. Those players that come out and are upset are the ones that were cheated because they're doing it the right way. Right? If your closet's not clean, you're not going to come out and call someone else out, call their closet dirty, because guess what? You know that attention is going to go right back to you. And if you have a dirty closet or some skeletons in your closet you don't want out, you're not going to say anything. So I think Chris Sale, again, not putting the blame, not being upset for directly getting cheated out of maybe a World Series, at least some postseason success, guarantees, at least to me, and confirms baseball is cheating in some way or another. So I'm curious, do you buy Chris Sale just accepting the Astros cheating? If this happened to you, instead, if you got a job interview and you lost a job because someone else lied on their resume, how would you feel that? Would you be just as upset if you were the victim of cheating? Or would you be like Chris Sale, it happened in the past, what's in the past is in the past, I'm just going to move forward and focus on the next thing. So I'd love to get your thoughts on that, cheating in baseball, Chris Sale's comments about the Astros, just being okay with them cheating. So get your thoughts on that, whether on Facebook, Worldwide Sports Radio Network, on Twitter, WWSRN_radio. When we come back, we'll get your thoughts on also the most intriguing NFL teams. We're in the top third, the top tier. Now we are moving to the most intriguing, most exciting NFL teams. We have numbers 12 to number 9. Give you what those teams are when the Morning Boys, Ryan Hickey, return right here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. It's time to wake up with the Morning Boys on Worldwide Sports Radio Network. And here's your host, Ryan Hickey.
Welcome back on this Memorial Day Monday. Hope everyone's having a great holiday weekend. We appreciate you tuning in to the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. It is the Morning Boys with Ryan Hickey right here with you. If you have any Memorial Day plans or activities that obviously you love doing, that's always the goal. We're taking your thoughts, whether it's on Facebook, whether it's on Twitter, your favorite Memorial Day activity. Mine for sure is going to the beach, getting that first tan of the year. No way going to the water. Way too cold for that. But just kind of, getting back in the mix, getting back in the swing of things and trying to start summer off on the right foot. If you have any of your thoughts, either comment on Facebook or on Twitter. Beth writes in, eating a hot dog is all she wants to do for Memorial Day. Thankfully, Beth, you are in luck because guess what? Coronavirus doesn't stop you from eating a hot dog. So hopefully you get a nice juicy dog today at some point. But that is her goal. Very simple, very easy. Remember, every Memorial Day, just what do you got to do? One goal, get a hot dog. That's it. So hopefully you can accomplish that this weekend for sure and get a nice, juicy dog. Any thoughts, again, either on Facebook, World Sports Radio Network, or on Twitter, WWSRN_radio. We have 2020 Apocalypse coming in about 15 minutes or so, and then we'll finish the show with Dennis Dodd, the great college football reporter for CBS Sports, trying to figure out what is his confidence level for a college football season resuming. You have the NCAA now allowing students back on campus starting June 1st. You have the SEC, the first conference, having some formal football workouts starting, I believe, a week later on June 8th. So slowly, you're starting to see some teams starting to ramp up for the 2020 season. We'll get Dennis's thoughts. And he had some interesting comments on if football does resume, what it would look like and some of the changes we would see on the sidelines starting in 2020. So we'll get those thoughts in about 35 minutes or so at 10:42. Again, close out the show. But we do have our most intriguing NFL teams of 2020. We're doing this countdown from 32 to number 1. What team's going to be exciting to watch? What team should you have your eye on all year round? And what teams are going to be can't miss television essentially in 2020? So we're at numbers 12 through 9. We'll start with number 12, the Cincinnati Bengals. God awful last year, 2-14. No reason to watch them. But guess what? One draft pick, that changes it all. You get Joe Burrow, the guy who had the best statistical season and best overall season in college football history. I feel confident saying that. What he did with the numbers that he put up against the defenses and the caliber of teams that he played last year and how LSU destroyed everybody, I have no doubt in saying Joe Burrow had the best collegiate season, individual season we've ever seen. So with that, can he bring that momentum now to the Bengals? And you look who he has. A.J. Green, knocking on wood here, that he can stay healthy. That is a great number 1 target to throw to. You have Tyler Boyd, who really emerged in the absence of A.J. Green. So you have 2 great receivers to throw the ball to, excuse me. You have Joe Mixon, a great young running back that's great out of the backfield, can run hard. So right now you have some weapons. They drafted T. Higgins. The Bengals low-key have some nice offensive weapons where Joe Burrow could put some points up. I don't think they're going to turn around and go from 2-14 to 10-6 make the playoffs. You had the 49ers 2 years ago, 4-12, and then last year they go to the Super Bowl. That turnaround's not happening. But they'll be an exciting team. I think they'll be in some games. They'll be competitive. They'll be a spunky bunch. It'll be a lot of fun and very intriguing to see how Joe Burrow plays in his first NFL season, because I think there is a legitimate question of, was last year a flash in the pan? Was it a one-hit wonder? You look at all the talent, and again, you look at the defenses and the competition that Joe Burrow's played. You also look at the talent that he had at LSU. I mean, you look at all of the guys drafted off that team on offense and defense. That was loaded. They had one of the best overall rosters in football. So now he's going to obviously go to a decreasing roster, but hey, there's still weapons. Again, you got AJ Boyd, AJ Green, Tyler Boyd. You draft T. Higgins. There are some weapons there for Joe Burrow to throw the ball to. I think it'll be intriguing. It'll be interesting. And also, here's another wrinkle here to throw in there that makes the Bengals more watchable. I think their defense won't be good. It's going to be pretty bad. Which, guess what that means? A lot of scoring for the other team. Which means, guess what? Joe Burrow and the Bengals are going to have to throw the ball a lot. So I think having a bad defense is good in this scenario because it's going to add for more high-scoring games, which people love, make the games more exciting. So I think number 12, Cincinnati Bengals, their record won't be good, but they will be one of those teams you always have your eye on, because I think Joe Burrow could really make some magic happen and continue that success he had in LSU, bring it over to Cincinnati, and at least make them fun watch in 2020. At number 11, the Houston Texans. This is tough because they have easily one of the best young quarterbacks in all the game, right? Deshaun Watson, equally super talented. I think Patrick Mahomes by far and away is the best quarterback in the league, let alone just the best young quarterback. I think in that second tier, you have Deshaun Watson. He's played well enough, and he's done so much with so little. He deserves to be there as one of the best young quarterbacks in the league, so he's going to be exciting to watch. This is going to be interesting, too, because this is really a make-or-break year for Bill O'Brien. He's basically already going all in these last few years. He's basically the general manager, or he is the general manager and head coach. So he's making a lot of decisions to shape the roster the way he wants. A lot of those gambles are going to be interesting. He traded away DeAndre Hopkins. He brought in David Johnson. He traded for Brandon Cooks. So he traded away a reliable pass-catching number one receiver to bring in an injury-prone David Johnson, who has only regressed these last few years, to also bring in and replace Hopkins with an injury-prone Brandon Cooks. A smaller version, a speedster, which, guess what, the Texans already have a bunch of, and another guy who has some serious injury questions. So you trade away one reliable, durable threat that Deshaun Watson had, a security blanket, let alone one of the best receivers in the game. You bring in two question marks injury-wise, and a guy, again, and running back at David Johnson, who's only regressed since he got his big contract, and Brandon Cooks, who is a nice receiver, but can't stay on the field. And again, he fits the mold that they already have. They already have small, fast receivers. They already have Kenny Stills. They already have Will Fuller. So we're just going to run four verts with those three guys every single play? I'm very nervous about what Bill O'Brien is doing offensively to surround Deshaun Watson, and I think this is a huge year for Bill O'Brien. If he doesn't win at least one, maybe two playoff games, they could tear this whole thing around, because the worst thing you need to do now is ruin Deshaun Watson. And there's no better blueprint to see that than what the Colts had with Andrew Luck. They didn't really surround him with weapons. They did not address the offensive line at all for the first few years of his career. He took a pounding. He still was good. He was still talented enough to carry that team, despite having no receivers, despite having a terrible offensive line. And he carried the team for the first few years, went to the AFC title game in 2014. And then guess what? Those injuries took a toll. The bad drafting took a toll. And all of a sudden, when he went down, the team just crumbled. I'm legitimately nervous that Deshaun Watson, the amount of hits, with the amount of sacks he's taken through the first few years, with now finally they're starting to address the offensive line, but in doing so, we're already overpaying. They paid Larry Tunsil, left tackle, $22 million a year. They reset the market and paid him an absurd salary because they had no other option. They traded a boatload of picks for him, couldn't get a contract negotiation then, and now basically you had Larry Tunsil hand them a blank check, and that's what the Texans had to do. So they are desperate. They're in cap hell. The defense is getting older. The weapons are getting worse for Deshaun Watson. I'm nervous about the direction the Texans are heading in, which makes them watchable, which makes them intriguing, because I want to see how do they play, how do they react. They came off of that gut-wrenching, heartbreaking 24-0 lead in Kansas City to all of a sudden get blown out of the water and next thing you know, you blink and they lose the game in Kansas City. That's the last game we saw. So, and again, I'm curious to see how these moves work out. I'm very skeptical about the Texans. I think they'll take a step back. But they still have one of the best young quarterbacks in all the game. Can he elevate the Texans and a poor roster around him to still get them to the playoffs and still save Bill O'Brien's job? That's something I'm definitely watching for sure. Like I said, I mean, the defense is getting older. J.J. Watt still getting older, and guess what? The injuries are still starting to mount up. Whitney Merciless getting older. A lot of these key bedrock kind of guys that the Texans have built the defense on for years are starting to get up there in age. This is not crazy to say. This might be one of the last few years they have to make a legitimate run at it. Because eventually they're going to have to break down the defense. They're going to have to reset, either trade away some pieces or, unfortunately, have to cut some pieces and try to get younger on defense. Not to mention get younger or save some cap space. It's going to be interesting how much longer this Texans team, as currently constructed, can stay together. This is really one of the last years they have to make a legitimate run at it. I'm interested to see how it works. So the Texans, for me, at number 11. At number 10, the Philadelphia Eagles. Interesting, because at the wide receiver position, they kind of are going with the Texans. They're going all in on speed. They drafted Jalen Reagor, a speedster at TCU. They traded for Marquise Goodwin, a speedster that was on the 49ers. You have Deshaun Jackson coming back after playing just 2 games last year. Those are 3 guys built on speed, built on throwing the deep ball. I'm interested to see, what the offense looks like. I like Carson Wentz. I really believe that he's a very talented quarterback. But him and the rest of the team, their main question mark is health. They have a very solid roster. I really like what the Eagles have built 1 through 53. They have a great defense, a great offense. The only question for them is they don't have the depth. They can't survive injury after injury after injury. In the last few years, they have suffered major injuries to major players. I mean, it's impossible to have that great of depth throughout the entire roster. So last year we saw the wide receiver was so depleted, they had a college quarterback be one of their go-to targets down the stretch in Greg Ward Jr. He was honestly the number one option. Yeah, Alshon Jeffrey on one leg, essentially hobbling around. Deshaun Jackson was gone after 2 games. So now, again, you trade for Marquise Goodwin, you draft Jalen Reagor. They're going all in on speed, which could be very exciting to watch when you have Carson Wentz dropping back, throwing deep balls all over the field. I think it would be very exciting. Again, the biggest question for the Eagles is going to be health. If they can stay healthy, they're going to be a good team. I think they'll win the division again. So that's why the Eagles are at number 10. They should be a fun, exciting offense especially, and a fun team to watch. And we'll finish at number 9, the Miami Dolphins. So many questions. So much momentum built up that I think they'll be a fun team to watch this year. And first major question, is Tua going to play? If so, when is he going to play? And will he stay healthy? I think that's obviously a major storyline to watch throughout the year. I think the Dolphins would be wise not to play Tua this year. Let him get fully healthy. Let the offensive line, more importantly, come together and see what you have. Because you can't protect him. There's no point in putting him out there and getting him hit extra and opening him up to getting some serious punishment. So that's going to be a major question mark is if and when Tua is going to play this year. They finished really strong last year. I mean, this was 4 games in. They are trending to be the worst statistical team in the NFL. And not just in 2020, in history. Yeah, the Browns go 0-16. Yeah, the Lions go 0-16. Those are some bad teams. The Dolphins were trending in every single stat to be the worst team in NFL history. They turned that around, finished strong. I like what they did in free agency. I like what they did in the draft. So what is the next step for them? Can they get to 7 wins? They're 5-11 last year. Can they get to 7 wins? Is that a crazy jump to think? Because I really like the momentum. They took the strong finish from last year, built that in free agency, built that in the draft. So I like what's coming in Miami. I really do. So the question is, can they be a spunky bunch? Can they be, a team that pushes teams around the AFC East? I mean, their record won't be great. Like I said, I think a great year for them would be 7-9, an ultimate great year. And if so, if that's the case, can they push some teams around? Will they be a tough out even those games they lose? Will they fight hard? I think they will. So the Dolphins, to me, at least, are a very exciting team in that regard, and reason why to watch, because the storylines of when and if Tua is going to play, how he's going to play. And then again, I like the momentum that the Dolphins are carrying over from 2019 into 2020. Brian Flores is a great coach. Turned them around. You could see that, the team has the buy-in for sure, which is very important when you have a young coach for sure. So I like what's going on down there in Miami. So if you have any thoughts, again, numbers 12 through 9, we had the Bengals, Texans, Eagles, and Dolphins. If I left any team or have them too, I'd love to get your thoughts when we come back. And also when we come back, it is time for 2020 Apocalypse. We have our new contestant. The number to beat, 4 out of 5. If you want first place, second place is 3 out of 5. So I'll have our next participant come up here and see if they can go a perfect 5 for 5. And the Morning Boys, Ryan, your turn right here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
You're listening to the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. It's time to wake up with the Morning Boys on Worldwide Sports Radio Network. And here's your host, Ryan Hickey.
And welcome back into the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Hopefully everyone's having a great Memorial Day weekend and a great Memorial Day Monday. We do appreciate you tuning in right here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. It is 10:20 in the East Coast, so you know what that means. The fastest growing game show in all of America is about to go down. 2020 or Apocalypse, 5 questions. Is this something that happened in 2020? Is this something that's made up? It only happened in the Apocalypse. We've had some great scores so far. We've had, blank on the leaderboard. We've had Sarah come in hot, 4 out of 5. We've had Lauren also go 4 to 5. And then we had second place coming up the rear, Nick and Mike, both 3 out of 5. So we've had some high scores here so far, and a lot of people in the money. Remember, first and second place are the ones that get prizes. So right now, 4 people are in the money. And we have our next contestant, a very close person that I know very well. It is none other than my sister, Colleen, trying to crack the money, go a perfect 5 for 5 as she is on the Morning Boys here. Colleen, what is going on?
Ryan, it's great to be here.
Thank you for participating. We do appreciate it. So disclaimer here, I did make these questions before I knew you were coming on. Obviously, just like Lauren, I would have made these questions as hard as possible if I knew beforehand you were coming on. So we'll see. Hopefully I'll try to trick you, but 3 out of 5 is definitely attainable to get second place at least. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. So in case you missed the rules, 5 questions. Is this something that happened in 2020 or Apocalypse? Best score out of 5 will win. Are you ready? Number 1.
Bring it on. Let's hear it.
A clothing company has released a new line of underwear with the names of prominent figures during this time, such as Andrew Cuomo, Gavin Newsom, and Anthony Fauci. Can you buy this clothing line? Is this real, 2020 or Apocalypse?
I'm going to go Apocalypse.
Ooh, that is real. You're 0 for 1. Canava
All right, you hate to hear it.
is a brand that's releasing this underwear and wants to show their appreciation for those working hard. So if you need a new pair of briefs, you can have Gavin Newsom or Anthony Fauci right on the butt. There you go. So that is real. 0 for 1.
All right, we got 4 more to go.
4 more to go, and guess what? You win 4, you get 4 in a row, you're still in first place. So the money is still there, still sitting pretty for you. Number 2, a feud has erupted in an Ohio neighborhood after the community had a drive-by birthday celebration for one neighbor, but not the other, leading to the scorned neighbor to slander their own town over Facebook and then put their house up for sale. The 2020 or Apocalypse?
I'm going to go 2020.
Ooh, that is the Apocalypse. Wow.
Oh, my God.
For someone who was complaining that the questions were too easy, they were too softball for Lauren, now you're 0 for 2. That is thankfully not real. No drive-by birthday celebration for one, not the other, and that is not why a person moves, thankfully. But, Miss, you're 0 for 2. Jeez.
I mean, I also told you off the air here, like, we can't trust it. You could say, oh, no, that's the Apocalypse, and it's really 2020. Like, where are the citations here?
I mean, listen, I have the Word document where I've been working at home. I keep a running list of things that actually happened. So I have the list at home. So, again, I'll print the receipts. I'll put them out on social media so everybody knows I'm not doctoring this. And if you want...
I don't know.
Here we go.
We just said, oh, it's the Apocalypse. Oh, you're wrong.
Classic Colleen. Things aren't going her way. She makes excuses, starts blaming others. It's definitely not your fault that you're 0 for 2, right? It's definitely my fault. I'm rigging this, despite texting you
I think so.
a few minutes ago about coming on. But you're right. I rigged this entire thing knowing you were coming on today. You got me. This whole thing's a sham.
If I go 0 for 5, I mean, like, we know who to blame here, but, you know.
Yeah, you're right. We do know how to blame. It's not me. It's the participant. All right, so 0 for 2, still have a chance of the money. You ready for number 3?
All right, let's bring it on here.
A gas station in Colorado has been trying to attract customers by paying them to buy the gas. So, for example, their deal is for every $25 worth of gas you buy, the gas station will give you $10. 2020 or Apocalypse?
Let's see.
Hopefully mom or dad are not there helping you out. There's no phone a friend. There's no lifeline here. It's just you.
No. I use my soul brain here. I'm going to say Apocalypse.
That is correct. Ding, ding, ding. You got one correct. That is not real. That is not a giveaway of basically a voucher. They're not paying you to buy the gas. But although oil prices, you look, are negative, they're paying you to buy the oil. So
yeah, we discussed this. You're going to get some oil and then sell it to people. They're going to pay us to buy the oil. We already went through this.
we already have the scam plan. Not a scam. We already have the plan, I should say. We're not scamming anyone here. We are above board for sure. We already have the plan. So when this show ends next week and we're retired, you'll know why. Oil is going through the roof.
Through the roof.
All right, so number 4. Are you ready? You're 1 for 3.
Let's hear it.
Not great.
All right,
Are mom and dad listening, by the way?
Oh, they're listening.
All right, because I'd love to know their thoughts. Poor Beth, she was the one who, not to rub salt in the wound, she's currently in last place. She got a lot of criticism, a lot of ridicule. So I just want to make sure that the same ridicule and the same criticism is going to go your way. I'll definitely make sure to replay this in case anyone missed it. But are you ready for number 4?
I'll hear for you either way, so it doesn't matter.
Number 4, a casino has opened their doors and instead of using a dealer chip, are using a bottle of hand sanitizer as a dealer button in order to promote safety.
I don't know. This could be happening in Vegas with that mayor. You never know.
Listen, that if you missed the Vegas mayor on CNN, what was that, about a month ago with Anderson Cooper? Yeah, you wouldn't be surprised. She was all for opening the doors and basically pretending that coronavirus does not exist. So this could easily be happening. Is it real or 2020?
I am going to say the apocalypse.
Ooh, wow, miss. You are 1 for 4. Yikes.
That's tough.
That is real. A casino in Florida has opened their doors and are using the bottle of hand sanitizer as a dealer button since none of the players are wearing gloves. So that's how I guess they promote social distancing and safety, because I guess every time you go to the dealer, boom, a little squirt of hand sanitizer. So that is absolutely real and happening in Florida. No shock. Wow.
Yikes.
So you wow. This is
50. That's fine. I'm okay with it.
all right. Dad just wrote in. We are listening, so I know. I'm sure
I know.
he's enjoying this for sure. Number 5, to avoid last place. Are you ready?
Let's hear it.
This is in the finance world, so this should theoretically cater to your expertise. Since the beginning of the calendar year, so January of 2020, the company that has benefited the most during the coronavirus in terms of their year-to-date gains has been Amazon.
Oh, that's 2020.
Trick question. Got him. That is the apocalypse. Amazon is up
Are you kidding me?
Amazon is up 27%. Do you know which company is up the most? Well, I guess you don't because you guessed Amazon.
I don't because I got it wrong.
Zoom Video up 130%.
Oh my god.
Oh, it's really suckered.
Yeah,
That was
See, I don't know. I think this is a scam right here.
how I looked it up last night. You can do a quick Google search, type in year-to-date gains, and a great company had the 40 most. A great website should say had 40 companies that benefited the most of the coronavirus since obviously, benefited the most year-to-date since the coronavirus came through. Zoom Video 130%. So, sorry, it's not. Amazon's up, don't get me wrong, but only 27% compared to 130%. So, another tough one for you. You are 1 out of 5. Colleen, wow, you talked a lot of smack, too.
I mean, honestly, I would like that last question to be taken out. Who would get that right? Literally no one. That's just rude.
How? Colleen, you are in the finance industry. You should know the companies that are, first of all, you keep bragging. We'll pull back the curtain here for those that don't know. Colleen started investing her money. So now every day she's checking her money, checking the stocks, seeing, her gains, bragging about her gains. This question is right up your alley. You should know if you were paying attention to the stock market, if you, read some investor magazines. Amazon's up, but listen, Zoom Video is where it's at. Everyone's using Zoom.
Please.
I'm disappointed. I thought you would get that one. But what can I say? I guess, maybe you're not as smart as you try to acclaim. 1 out of 5. Yikes. We'll finish this, Colleen. We'll get you out here on a good note, at least. We're talking about your favorite Memorial Day activities that you normally do. I said mine's going to the beach. What is yours here?
I usually spend the MTW at soccer, so
yeah. Don't miss that. Don't miss that. Don't miss those weekend soccer tournaments for sure. So, what was your answer? The beach?
I would say the beach.
All right. What are you guys doing today?
Well, I mean, I guess me going 1 for 5 means the rocket fuels are going to be consumed earlier than expected. So,
Ooh, never too early for a good rocket fuel, that's for sure.
It's tough out there.
So, all right, well, hey, thanks for playing. Thanks for providing the free content, because guess what? You will never hear the end of this. You will never live this down. So this was definitely worth it. Thanks for playing, Colleen.
Oh, no problem.
Yikes, and there you have it. Colleen, my great sister, if you couldn't pick up from that point, goes 1 for 5. Oh, man, she got smoked. And as you can imagine, the comment section is really blowing up here. Started off with some go Colleen, started off with some encouragement, and it quickly started downturning. Beth is behind Colleen on this conspiracy theory. Beth, I told you, as soon as Colleen struggles, as soon as things don't go her way, all of a sudden the excuses start running. My dad writes in, he is listening. And Beth, great news. You are not in last place anymore. You're in third place. So I know you got a lot of ridicule. The Troncali family especially was not kind to you for sure, but congratulations on beating Colleen. That is for sure, because if you know, every single show I come home after Monday and Thursday, she'd always criticize the questions, especially Lauren. Lauren, especially, I hope you know, Colleen was not happy with the questions that were asked. Apparently, too many softballs thrown your way. But yeah, look at that. She talks a lot of smack, talks a big game, and then when it's time to step up, when it's time to actually deliver, not good. She struggles 1 out of 5. So the good news is, now really everyone should be getting in line, because the good news is it's really hard to follow up and do worse than 1 out of 5. If someone gets 5 out of 5, I can understand, I don't want to go next. That's such a high standard, high bar to live up to. 1 out of 5, basically you can just sneeze, and get 1 out of 5 correct. So Colleen definitely struggles there, and we do appreciate her tuning in though and participating. It's always a fun time for sure. And then she's already on the comment section. Down with this game. Haters gonna hate. What can I say? When you struggle, obviously you're not a big fan of the game. But also you heard her say her big activity for Memorial Day is the beach. I'd love to get yours again either on Facebook, Worldwide Sports Network. What is the favorite Memorial Day activity? Twitter, WWSRN_radio, WWSRN_radio. My guy Nick tweets in, what is his favorite Memorial Day activity? Standing by the AC vent in Parker House, listening to live music and drinking 7 billion Bud Lights, Spring Lakers, and Jesus juices with the boys. That is absolutely a great way to spend Memorial Day weekend. I actually made it down to Parker House for the first time last year, and I know that is Nick's spot. That's his summer hangout, and let me tell you, Parker House is so much fun. And also, unfortunately, with that said, it's also the exact place that the last place you want to be during a pandemic, I would say, is a packed basement, dark basement, with everyone basically shoulder to shoulder in a hot room. But Nick, being the veteran that he is, being the expert that he is, going there all the time, knows there's always one spot in the corner, kind of like a side bar that's not really used, and there's an AC vent that really, I don't know the exact layout, but feels like it's the only AC vent in the entire downstairs. And let me tell you, it gets hot quick. And this guy, being the pro that he is, being the expert that he is, finds it and always parks himself right by that vent to stay cool in order to ensure that he is not sweating. So that is a great right in there. If you have any Memorial Day plans, I was going to say a random number. Excuse me. If you have any Memorial Day plans on Facebook, Worldwide Sports Network, or on Twitter, WWSRN_radio, I'll get your thoughts. And again, if you just missed it, Colleen, my sister chimed in to play the 2020 or Apocalypse game with 1 out of 5. That is last place. Not good. And the trash talk's already starting. My dad writes in, the excuses are already flowing. He knows. And this is going to be, let me tell you, I cannot wait to go home now and let Colleen hear it. That's for sure. A lot of criticism now, and she has no excuses. So that was a lot of fun. Thanks again to Colleen for participating. We do appreciate her chiming in here. When we come back, we'll finish up the show with Dennis Dodd, a great CBS Sports college football reporter. He's all over resuming. Last week was really the first week that we kind of felt confident that a return to sports or a return to college football, I should say, could happen, because you had the NCAA allowing student athletes to go back for voluntary workouts starting June 1st, next week. You had the SEC announced that they are starting formal football voluntary workouts on June 8th. So now we are finally starting to kind of see our way and kind of see a path to where college football potentially could resume, maybe even on time. As crazy as that sounds, maybe even just 2 weeks ago. So we'll get Dennis's thoughts on, is this a real possibility? Could college football actually start? We'll get his confidence level for sure. And we'll also get his thoughts as a Michigan president, kind of poured some cold water on that thought. So we'll get that with Dennis Dodd when the Morning Boys Ryan return right here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
You're listening to the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. It's time to wake up with the Morning Boys on Worldwide Sports Radio Network. And here's your host, Ryan Hickey.
And welcome back into the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. It is the Morning Boys with Ryan Hickey right here on this Memorial Day Monday. We appreciate you tuning in. Hopefully everyone's having a great holiday weekend and hopefully having a great Memorial Day Monday. As we wrap up the show, we hope at least Memorial Day is, one of the benchmarks in the summertime, the beginning of the summer. Obviously, we have July 4th, really the midway point, and then Labor Day, the end of the summer, but also not just the end of the summer, the start of the college football season. And at least last week, you had a lot of news, whether the NCAA allowing voluntary workouts and allowing players back on campus. You have the SEC starting some formal football workouts. And there's at least a trickle and a start of a sense that maybe we can have college football back as close to normal on time as possible. So to get some more details on that and really kind of gauge whether that is a possible or not, we'll bring in no one better. And the man himself who covers the college football for CBS Sports. That is Dennis Dodd. Dennis, really appreciate a few minutes here. How are you doing on this Memorial Day Monday?
I'm great. Just relaxing a little bit, Ryan, and ready for the story of the year to continue covering that, which we all know what it is, this virus.
Oh, absolutely. And speaking of which, so before we get to college football, the question I've had on the show throughout the day is, obviously with the virus, Memorial Day weekend is a little bit different. What's your go-to Memorial Day plans? Is it a hike? Is it going to the beach? Playing golf? What is your ideal Memorial Day weekend plans that usually try to get in, obviously when circumstances are pretty much normal here?
Well, ideal, aside from these unique times, would be to barbecue or play some golf or both. But my wife and I are sheltered in place, hunkered down. Actually may look for a barbecue pit today, but that's about it. It's different times right now.
It absolutely is different times. I'm with you. My go-to activity is the beach, and obviously, especially here on Long Island, it's a little bit tougher to do than most places with the restrictions we have. So hopefully, like I said, it's really throwing our spring into a tizzy, and at least the summer as well, really throwing a wrench into it. But hopefully, fall obviously is what we're looking forward to hopefully have that resume as close to normal as possible. So I'm curious, Dennis, we'll start off with this. Last week I think was, for at least me personally, the most confident I've been that college football could return to as close as normal as possible, and maybe even on the field as close as possible. And I'm not going to lie, yesterday you heard Michigan President Mark Schlissel, I hope I pronounced that correctly. Schlissel. Yeah. Throw some cold water on that, where he said, if Michigan's not open 100%, if every student's not back in Michigan, we're not having fall sports. Does hearing that from him, from a president of a major college football university in Michigan, does that kind of change your thoughts on the viability of a season at all? Or for you, is your optimism level the same, it was last week as it was maybe Sunday afternoon after you heard Mark Schlissel say those comments?
It was significant only because who was saying them. And, the president of Michigan, 112,000 seats or whatever it is, no matter what you think of Jim Harbaugh, one of the biggest programs in the country. I thought from the beginning, or when this thing started to take shape, that we would not take off with all 130 teams. Now, it would be significant if Michigan wasn't among them, but some of the plans being talked about are trying to find opponents, and I'm talking about all over the country, trying to find opponents the week of a game if there's an outbreak. I mean, that's where we are now to try to get this season in. I want to make sure people understand this, that a lot of this is on the come. There's confidence they can get it in, but they're pushing the envelope. I just heard today on television that, in some places we're not even through the first wave, forget a second spike. So, and it's significant. The Michigan president is I think an immunologist. So he's a medical professional, and he sees this. And Michigan as a state has had some tough times to get over this. So, yeah, it's significant.
So I'm curious, right now on May 25th, what is your optimism level that a season could be played as close to normal as possible? You have 50%, 60%, or even lower than that?
You mean 12 games by all 130 teams?
Let's say, how about Power 5? I'm with you. I don't think everyone's going to play. How about we just limit to Power 5, having somewhat, maybe even 11 games, but as close to a normal season where there's no asterisk and there's no real feel that this is illegitimate. How about that?
Yeah, I think on May 26th or whatever it is, it's really hard to even predict that. I've just taken the Fifth Amendment and just said I think there'll be college football played this fall, this calendar year. I think we've got about 13 twists and turns before we even know what it's going to look like. So, and you mentioned it, Ryan. Last Monday, I didn't feel that way. I didn't feel confident that way. And I think it was just a week ago. It seems like a month ago, the California governor said that there could be pro sports in June, and that okay, that's pretty big. Especially the week before when the California state system, the trustees had said there would not be students on campus, which kind of at least shut out 3 teams from the Mountain West. So I think we've come a long way. I think it's very, very cloudy as to what it's going to look like. Is the SEC going to play? I think part of the SEC is going to play. They seem to be the leader here. They're coming back. They were the first conference to announce they were coming back. So yeah, it remains to be seen.
Talking with Dennis Dodd, CBS Sports College Football national reporter. Follow Dennis on Twitter at Dennis Dodd CBS, at Dennis Dodd CBS. Always has some great nuggets if you're a big college football fan like myself. So, Dennis, I'm curious, right, because we heard a lot of university presidents, athletic directors, conference commissioners. Basically, they're the ones talking publicly about their thoughts on if a season could resume, when it could resume. I'm curious to get your thoughts because The Athletic last week talked to 45 players anonymously, actual, D1 football players, and did a poll of, how they would feel safety-wise if they were resumed, what their concerns are. For the most part, again, out of the 45, it's a small sample size, but the majority said they want to play. So I'm curious from, the people you've talked to, are school, whether it's school presidents, athletic directors, or anyone talking to the actual players about their thoughts and concerns since they're the ones actually taking the risk? Or is it for the most part they're only talking with university presidents, conference commissioners, and the NCAA about getting a season resumed in some sort of fashion?
Yeah, that's a great point, Ryan, because up until that point, and it was a sample size of 45, and it was a good story, when you would ask these stakeholders in the game, if anybody talked to players, and it'd be kind of crickets. They'd give lip service about the student-athlete, advisory council and all this other stuff. But no, I mean, that's a big part of this because they don't, unlike pro athletes, they can't negotiate their working conditions. They don't have a union, and I'm not necessarily advocating for a union, but they don't have that power. They're going to do whatever they're told. I think part of this is a huge liability factor for these schools and athletic departments. Are these players going to be made to sign a waiver that says you are not going to sue the school if you catch any kind of contagious disease? Because you can't just make it coronavirus. Because what is coronavirus and what is the flu? What is the difference between that? And I saw evidence in a Chronicle of Higher Education story last week where the president of UTEP was asking the vice president and education secretary for a blanket liability protection in this. And I think that's a huge part. It's because somebody or some staff is going to test positive. They're going to catch this. I would dare say somebody's going to be hospitalized. And then what happens then? Is that a week of a game? You just cancel? Is it a forfeit? Is it no contest? You shut it down for 2 weeks? None of those questions have been answered because it's going to happen. The statistical probability says it's almost 100%. So they've got to get past that. Do the players want to play? Absolutely. They want to play. But they've got to be as safe as possible. The stakeholders will never do this, but the best way to do this is not play the rest of the calendar year. Let this thing wash over the country, maybe play next spring. But look, let's be honest. Financially, they can't afford not to play, and that's what's driving a lot of this.
I'm with you, and that's why I'm with you, Dennis. I think in the academic year it will be played, but you're right. It seems like it's trending towards the fall, but there was a thought out there that a spring season could be the safest with fans, with maybe, again, with testing and hopefully a vaccine or something. Because even in the athletic article, you had one quarterback throw the question, to your point, like what happens if someone gets sick and if they have underlying health issues or, God forbid, it gets serious. It's not, we still don't really know a lot. There's so many questions, right? It's not guaranteed that someone who's 18 to 22 will get it and then basically have flu-like symptoms and be fine. It could easily, unfortunately, turn, like you said, turn quickly, and then who's liable, and then what happens? Like it's like you said.
The coaches who are in the risk factor category. A lot of these coaches are in this age group where they're susceptible to getting it. So how do you keep all those people separated? I don't know.
It's a great point. Nick Saban, Mac Brown, those two are prominent figures in the sport, and like you said, are at risk for sure with their age. It's going to be a lot of questions that hopefully will get answered. We're talking to Dennis Dodd of CBS Sports College Football reporter. So, Dennis, I'm curious then. So we talked about, obviously, there's, I feel like, two main challenges, or the biggest challenges that getting looked at for college football is, can we get the season started? I feel like not a lot of people are talking about, once the season started, can we keep it going? So what's the bigger challenge in your mind? Is it getting the actual season started, or once it's started, if it's close to or on time, keeping the season going? Because we always hear about the second wave coming, in October, November. What's the bigger challenge in your mind, getting it started or keeping it going once it is started?
Oh, clearly keeping it going, because aside from not playing at all, that's the biggest concern, where you'd have an outbreak somewhere, or look, the president shuts down the country again, or states shut down the country, and you can't play. Then you're just like it's suspended in midair. What do you do? That's the worst possible outcome. And Bob Bowlesby, the Big 12 commissioner, has mentioned that several times. They've got to, do this as prudently as possible. And if that means starting in October, or starting in November, or starting next year, or playing a truncated schedule, then that's the way it's going to have to be. But as I mentioned earlier, this is just kind of wandering into the wilderness a little bit. That yes, they need the money. The best case scenario would be to let this wash over the country, and when they step out over that diving board and start playing games, it's a lot of hope that they don't get shut down again. We saw what happened yesterday in some of these, or over the weekend, with some of these people gathering in some of these Memorial Day festivities. Not smart. Bringing students back to campus and athletes is assuming they don't go to bars and don't go to parties. That's going to happen.
So, actually, speaking of which, I'm curious, Dennis, because I feel like, there was at least a big discussion of if students are allowed back on campus, right? If the university goes online for the fall semester, should players be allowed to come back on campus? To me, it almost makes sense for that to happen. Like, wouldn't it be safer if the school wants college football to resume safely, like you said, right? There's no real way to guarantee or ensure that these players aren't intermingling with other students, even just going to class, or just like you said, if they're going to the bar or going to the party, that where they can get sick and then spread it to their team and shut it down. Wouldn't it make more sense for these universities to actually be online for the fall and just allow athletes to come back to kind of, quarantine them theoretically as much as possible?
I think that's one way of looking at it. Every university is different. I mean, if you look at it from the financial standpoint, these presidents, I would say in general across the country, are desperate for butts to be in seats, not in the stands, in the classroom. Before this hit, there was a general downturn in enrollment in college, which was causing some financial distress at these schools. I mean, we're talking about dorms, housing, meal plans that these students pay for. Even something that sounds insignificant is parking, which is huge on a lot of campuses. That's income coming in to a budget of, I think, out of what was it at Michigan? I think the budget was $5 billion or something like that for the entire school, and athletics was $185 million. So no, they desperately need these students on campus. Now, yeah, the stakeholders, the president's been all over the map on this. First, it was no students, no football. That was the word to Mike Pence when the commissioners met with him over the phone. And then it kind of softened. Well, maybe we can have this hybrid thing where we have some online, some in, maybe they're in their dorms taking on. I'm just saying from a financial standpoint, to these schools, they have to be on campus if they can safely.
It's a good point. I didn't think about it that way. You're right. It would be definitely safer for the students if they weren't. But I see, you're right. Obviously, we're locked in on the football aspect of financial, how important it is. But you're right. Butts in the seats in the classroom is just as important for these overall universities. Dennis, I'm curious. Last week you wrote an article about if the season was to go on in 2020, how it would be different. You listed a ton of different ways that we can expect 2020 to be different, from safety precautions to maybe how coaches go about meetings and maybe only being on Zoom, like you said, interacting with the players that are at risk. One of the things you noted that would be different, and I'm curious about this, is the need for safety to actually trump winning, right? You know, you put out there that maybe it's separating the team to where if one group gets sick, the backups can still stay healthy to play on that game. So I'm curious, do you actually believe that schools will put safety first at the cost maybe of trying to win a game?
Boy, that's really complicated because, I quoted a medical professional at Arizona who's been a trainer there for 25 years, and he's their head medical officer, I think now. Not a team doctor, but head medical officer is his title. And he's the one that came up with that he said the emphasis has to be on not necessarily winning games, but getting 120 guys through the season safely and healthy. Now, at what point is that trumped by, a coach trying to win games? Well, every day, you would think. It's just fascinating how they're going to try to do this. I mean, he painted a picture where, this is the largest team sport. I said 120 guys, where you're going to have to try to keep them apart in a perfect world until the ball is snapped on Saturday. As best you can, separate the first and second team offensive lines. So if one guy or all five guys get sick, then you can plug somebody in there without a moment's notice. Is it an ideal thing your second string offensive line is starting? Absolutely not, but at least you're playing. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's the kind of thing from the health care standpoint they're thinking about, and it takes the coaches to buy in.
It's a tough buying, especially in the pressure cooker that is college sports, like you said, with so little games and so much pressure on all these coaches every single week. Like you said, it's a spot I don't envy. I know a lot of people, say, oh, man, I'd love to be a college football coach, but this is a scenario where, like you said, right, when you have to put safety, basically almost measure, in some instances, safety over winning. It's a tough spot to put some of these coaches in for sure. We're talking with Dennis Dodd, CBS Sports College Football reporter. Dennis, I'm curious. So last week, obviously we're going to get way in here and assume at least college football can resume safely for the most part. Ohio State Athletic Director Gene Smith basically said last week, Ohio State, he believes at some point this year they could host up to 50,000 fans for a game. So I'm going to ask about, the viability of that because I think obviously each state's going to be different. But I'm curious about this aspect. If some states are allowing fans, right, we see the South especially are opening up and loosening regulations more than other parts of the country, more than California, more than the Northeast. So I'm curious, if fans are allowed in stands and it's safe in some states, how do you think it's going to be regulated? Like, is it going to be a state-by-state basis? So Ohio State, let's say, can have fans for their game, but Penn State can't. Do you think is there going to be any sort of regulation there, or it's literally going to be state-by-state and really the state governments are going to be the ones that allow fans in the stands or not?
Yeah, that's not really a concern to me. I think that's up to the health professionals and governors of the state. Whether somebody has a quote-unquote advantage because they have 10,000 people in the stadium isn't a big deal to me. More to my point is I'm wondering how Gene Smith got there. How did we go in the course of a few hours on Saturday or on last week on a conference call? He kind of surprised people by saying, yeah, we might be able to get 22,000 in there. And by the end of the day, he was saying 50,000, where the day before it wasn't even a consideration. First of all, how did we get there? Because I know other schools are modeling this. How did we get there? And then the second question is, and probably the biggest for the people that follow the sport, who gets those tickets?
That's
if less than 1 out of 2 people that go to games at Ohio State are allowed in at 50,000. Boy, who gets those tickets? Now, Jack Swarbrick at Notre Dame, he's a proponent of this. He wants students in the stands. Doesn't mean he would necessarily support it, but he wants them in the stands. He said the first tickets would go to the students, and that seems fair. They're the ones paying the tuition to go to school, supporting the team. They're actually the legacy givers who are going to be there in 20 years contributing to the cause. But you know what I'm talking about. That seems to be the case. But if you're a big time, it's not going to be 50,000 everywhere. Let's say it's 10,000 or 5,000. Those boosters are going to be putting a lot of pressure on those ADs to get in there, to be part of it. It's going to be a unique circumstance. So I think that may be the next story I'm working on. That's going to be a lot of pressure on people.
There's going to be a lot of emails, Dennis, I'm sure, going to, like you said, those booster funds, and those ADs are going to be, their inboxes will be flooded with, this is how much I don't remember. Don't forget, I gave you a few years back. I supported you. Maybe scratch my back here this time.
They're simply buying their way in the moment. Who knows?
That's I'm sure that the ADs and the schools won't turn that down for sure, especially now. We're wrapping up here with Dennis Dodd. Dennis, I have 2 quick questions for you here. So number one, Do you think college football, after all this going on, do they need a commissioner type to kind of run college football? You obviously have Mark Emmert with the NCAA running college basketball, but now when you kind of leave it up to conference or even by states, where some states, like I said, there's basically regulations are all different of when they can practice, if fans are in the state, all the different regulations. Does college football need a commissioner, or do you like the way it's run right now?
Well, they do, but it'll never happen.
Okay.
Because think about this. We can't. These commissioners can't even agree on the number of conference games that should be played.
That's a good
8,
point.
Some have 9. There's one. Do you want? If you're the Big Ten and you're taking in $55 million a year with your Big Ten network and media rights contract, do you want somebody telling you what to do? No. You want to swing a big stick. Same in the SEC. In other words, if there was a commissioner right now, do any of these guys? I'm not saying it would be wrong or right, but do you want anybody telling you how many people you can have in the stands and when you can come back? Absolutely not. I mean, that's why it was ludicrous a couple of weeks ago when Mark Emmert. Those big headlines crawl at the bottom of the screen. Mark Emmert, NCAA will not mandate a return to play. And my first thought was, you know what? Because he can.
Right.
He has no power in doing this. These guys are going to come back when they want. The NCAA can issue all the kind of medical guidelines it wants to, but that's all they are. They're best practices, they're guidelines because they can't be enforced, and if they aren't enforced, they can't be penalized. So it's best practices. It's like just a white paper going out there. We suggest you do these things. So no, it'll never happen unless maybe there's a Power 5 breakaway and they have one person representing them, but not now.
All right, and I want to finish with Dennis, and not coronavirus related or starting the season related at all. But another rule that's kind of really polarizing the sport is name, image, and likeness. The NCAA is going to vote on it in January of 2021. And I feel like for the most part, everyone is behind it except those actually in the game, athletic directors, coaches. And now you had Reggie Bush come out over the weekend and basically say that name, image, likeness could, quote, destroy some people. I'm just curious, Dennis, why does everyone or that's against it view name, image, likeness and students, or I should say athletes, getting paid or getting, I should say, benefits because of who they are, because of the success on the field? How come everyone assumes like this is going to be doomsday, this is going to be the worst case scenario, when every other person in college, every other person in America can profit off of their name and their skills except for college football and college athletes? Why does everyone think this is like a doomsday scenario if this was to go through?
Well, I think first of all, a lot of athletic directors are either agree with it or resign that it's going to happen. So I wouldn't say everybody.
Okay, that's fair.
The other point is that as humans, we're afraid of the unknown. It's really nice to be in this nice little cocoon that we've been in for 105 years or 110 years with the NCAA, where they just kind of move the goalpost depending on what amateurism means to them. Well, here's why it scares a lot of people. When we go to this model, and it's going to happen, there's going to be some form of name, image, and likeness where kids can earn money off their athletic talents. Let's be clear here. So there's going to be some social media, but they wouldn't be on social media with all those followers without their athletic talent. So that, in effect, professionalizes them. All right, I don't have a problem with that. I think that the NCAA amateur model is outdated. Okay, so then how do we deal with that? And that's the big question. The big question out there, the big hurdle is what about recruiting? And the NCAA basically is going to Congress to try to get an antitrust exemption so they can try to cap those numbers to try to rein in recruiting or try to have some kind of clearinghouse. Because then anything that hints of the NCAA trying to limit what these players can earn is going to be met with a lawsuit. Since 2014, they've been found in violation of Sherman antitrust twice. That's why we're here with O'Bannon. That's why we're here with cost of attendance. That's why we're here with NIL. And that's why we're here with people now raising the question, if the players are able to earn money and the NCAA is an amateur organization, what is the NCAA doing anyway? Besides setting play and practice rules and doing enforcement, it's a lot of people that disagree with anyway.
Dennis Dodd, CBS Sports College Football reporter. Dennis, thank you so much for a few minutes here. I really do appreciate it. Hopefully you can enjoy your Memorial Day, find a barbecue pit somewhere, and make the most of the day. Thanks again for the time. Really do appreciate it.
Yeah, there aren't many beaches in Kansas, Ryan, so it'll be hard. All right, thanks, man.
Thank you, Dennis. Dennis Dodd of CBS Sports. Follow Dennis at Dennis Dodd CBS. Great mind there. And as you see, I loved what Dennis. I'm really glad I got to ask him the question about what's harder, starting the season or keeping it started. Because I feel like that's, even for me, I fall into the same trap of always look at what's the day we're going to start? What's the day that we can actually get going here? And from there, you think, okay, once college football gets started, or any sport, baseball, football, basketball, once it gets started, we'll be good to go. When really that's just the beginning. That's where it gets, difficult, and that's where the most questions are. So we do appreciate Dennis. As you see, he said for sure, the harder part's not getting started. It's once you do get started, keeping it going through the whole season. So we do appreciate Dennis again. And that's going to do it for this edition of the Morning Boys. Do appreciate tuning in. Hopefully everyone has a great Memorial Day weekend. Finish strong on Memorial Day Monday. I'd like to thank those again for all those in the service who sacrificed their lives and who donated their time to fight for our freedom. We do thank you. Make sure to thank all the veterans that you know today for their great service. That's what this day is all about. After all. So again, do appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of your Memorial Day. We'll talk to you on Thursday right here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
You're listening to the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.